What if that pain you keep feeling is not merely something you have learned to tolerate? What if there is a spiritual battle behind what has been attacking your peace, strength, and focus? Tonight, hidden warfare is being brought into the light, and 7 warning signs will be exposed. But before you fight what you cannot see, you must understand what you are dealing with and why discernment matters. There are moments when your body begins to hurt and you cannot immediately explain why. A strange pressure, a recurring ache, a sudden sensation that seems to appear without warning. And when you are deeply focused on spiritual warfare, it can be tempting to conclude that every unexplained pain must be a spiritual attack. But you need discernment. Not every physical symptom is a spiritual arrow. Sometimes your body is simply telling you that something needs attention. You may be exhausted, dehydrated, under stress, sleeping badly, sitting in one position for too long. You may have an injury or an underlying medical condition that requires proper evaluation. This is where wisdom becomes part of spiritual warfare. You do not honor God by ignoring your body. You do not demonstrate faith by refusing medical care. And you do not become spiritually stronger by convincing yourself that every ache has a supernatural enemy behind it. The first weapon you need is discernment. Imagine someone waking up every morning with severe headaches. Instead of getting evaluated, they immediately assume someone has sent a spiritual attack against them. Days become weeks. The pain continues. Fear grows. Now they are not only dealing with physical discomfort, they are carrying anxiety, suspicion, and exhaustion. That is not freedom. You must learn to separate fear from faith. Scripture repeatedly calls you to wisdom, sobriety, watchfulness, and self control. Spiritual maturity does not mean seeing demons everywhere. It means knowing when something requires prayer, when something requires practical action, and when you need both. So if you experience persistent or severe pain, especially pain accompanied by weakness, numbness, confusion, difficulty breathing, chest pressure, fainting, or other alarming symptoms, seek appropriate medical attention. Do not delay because you are afraid that seeking help means you lack faith. Faith and wisdom are not enemies. Prayer and responsible action are not enemies. You can pray while making the appointment. You can trust God while listening to qualified medical professionals. You can declare peace over your mind while refusing to surrender your body to neglect. And spiritually, there is another battle happening here. Fear wants you obsessed. Fear wants every sensation to become a prophecy. Fear wants you constantly scanning your body, wondering who is attacking you, what they are doing, and when the next symptom will appear. That cycle can steal your peace. You need to break it. When pain appears, do not immediately panic. Pause, breathe, pray, ask God for wisdom, then respond responsibly. If the symptom has a clear physical explanation, address it. If anxiety is making the sensation worse, address the anxiety If the pain persists, get evaluated. And if your faith gives you strength through the process, hold on to that faith without turning uncertainty into spiritual certainty. This is important because real spiritual warfare is not about becoming terrified of your own body. It is about refusing to allow fear to control your decisions. You are not called to live frightened of every headache, every muscle ache, every strange sensation. You are called to walk in wisdom. And once you understand that, you can approach the remaining signs with greater discernment, because sometimes the greatest victory is not identifying an invisible enemy. Sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to let fear become one. And that is where your authority begins. There is another dimension you must understand. Sometimes the greatest damage pain causes is not only what you feel in your body, it is what happens to your mind afterward. You feel an ache, and immediately your thoughts begin racing. What is happening to me? Why did this start suddenly? Is something coming against me? What if this gets worse? One physical sensation can become 10 terrifying thoughts. And before you know it, fear has become louder than faith. This is why discernment matters. Pain can be physically real while the fear surrounding it becomes emotionally overwhelming. You may notice tension in your shoulders after days of stress. You may wake with a tight neck because you slept awkwardly. You may experience headaches after staring at screens for hours. You may feel muscle tension when you have been carrying responsibilities that have exhausted you emotionally. The body and mind are deeply connected. That does not make the pain imaginary. It means your overall condition deserves attention. This is where you must stop allowing fear to interpret everything for you. Fear says, something terrible is happening. Wisdom says, pause, examine what is happening, seek understanding. Fear demands immediate conclusions. Wisdom allows you to investigate. And spiritually, that difference is enormous. Imagine someone who has been under tremendous pressure at work. They barely sleep, they skip meals, they drink too little water, their muscles remain tense throughout the day. Then one night, they experience a sudden headache. Instead of resting, hydrating, and evaluating what may be contributing to the problem, they become convinced that an invisible enemy has targeted them. Now they cannot sleep. Their anxiety increases. Their muscles become even more tense. The symptoms become more frightening. The cycle continues. This is why you must guard your peace, not because every symptom is supernatural, but because fear itself can become destructive. You cannot allow uncertainty to become your master. When something hurts, bring it before God, but then use wisdom. Ask yourself what has changed. How have you been sleeping? Have you been eating properly? Have you been under unusual stress? Have you injured yourself? Has the pain persisted? Has it become severe? Does it require professional evaluation? These are not questions of unbelief. They are questions of stewardship. Your body deserves responsible care, and your mind deserves peace. There is another powerful truth here. You do not have to know the exact cause of every sensation before you choose peace. Write that again. You do not need perfect understanding before you can refuse panic. You can say, I do not understand this yet, but I will not surrender my mind to fear. That is strength. That is discipline. That is spiritual maturity. And if you are someone who constantly searches for supernatural explanations for every physical sensation, take a step back. Do not let frightening interpretations become stronger than evidence. Do not let dramatic stories convince you that you are constantly under attack. Seek truth, seek wisdom, seek appropriate medical care when necessary, and pray, let your faith become an anchor rather than a source of terror. Because the goal is not for you to become obsessed with invisible enemies. The goal is for you to become so grounded that fear cannot easily move you. Your body may experience pain, your circumstances may become difficult, your emotions may fluctuate, but you can still choose wisdom. You can still choose peace. You can still choose faith. And you can still refuse to let fear dictate what happens next. That is how you begin taking back control, not through panic, but through discernment. Now we come to the areas people often interpret through a spiritual warfare lens: headaches, neck and shoulder tension, back pain, chest discomfort, stomach pain, unexplained muscle aches, and sudden sensations that seem to appear repeatedly. But listen carefully. These symptoms can have many physical, psychological, or environmental causes. They are not proof that someone has spiritually attacked you. Your discernment must begin by refusing to turn uncertainty into certainty. Consider headaches. You may experience them because of dehydration, poor sleep, stress, eye strain, illness, medication effects, or many other causes. So when the pain begins, do not immediately declare, someone has sent an arrow against me. Instead, stop, pay attention. If headaches are frequent, unusually severe, sudden, or different from what you normally experience, seek medical evaluation. Prayer can accompany that decision. It does not replace it. Now consider your neck and shoulders. Many people carry tension there without realizing it. You may spend hours working at a desk. You may sleep in an awkward position. You may carry stress through your posture. Your muscles tighten, and eventually the discomfort becomes difficult to ignore. Again, discernment means looking at the whole picture. Then there is back pain. Back pain can come from muscle strain, posture, lifting something improperly, prolonged sitting, injury, or other conditions. It can also become emotionally exhausting. You may start thinking, why is this happening to me? That question can become dangerous when fear fills in the answer. You do not need to accuse an invisible enemy simply because you do not yet know the cause. Investigate. Get help when appropriate. Pray for strength. and protect your peace. Chest discomfort requires even greater caution. This is one area where you should never assume a spiritual explanation first. If you have new or severe chest pain, pressure, difficulty breathing, fainting, sweating, nausea, or pain spreading to your arm, jaw, back, or shoulder, seek emergency medical attention immediately. Do not sit alone trying to determine whether it is spiritual. Do not wait for a sign. Do not gamble with your life. Wisdom is not weakness. Wisdom protects you. Then consider stomach pain. Stress and anxiety can affect the digestive system, but stomach pain can also have many physical causes. Again, discernment means refusing to make assumptions. And what about unexplained muscle aches? Sometimes exhaustion is the explanation. Sometimes physical activity is the explanation. Sometimes illness is involved. Sometimes medication or another condition may be contributing. You need information, you need wisdom, you need appropriate care. And spiritually, you need peace while you seek those answers. This is where many people become trapped. They hear one dramatic testimony. Then every symptom begins to look like evidence. A headache becomes an arrow. A stomach ache becomes an altar. A tired morning becomes an attack. A restless night becomes proof of supernatural warfare. Soon, ordinary life becomes terrifying. That is not discernment. That is fear interpreting everything. True spiritual maturity teaches you to test what you believe. You can pray without assuming. You can remain spiritually alert without becoming spiritually paranoid. You can believe in spiritual warfare without attributing every physical symptom to it. And if you genuinely feel spiritually burdened, bring that burden to God through prayer, scripture, wise counsel, and your faith community. Do not retaliate against people based on suspicions. Do not accuse someone of attacking you because your body hurts. Do not attempt dangerous rituals or actions because someone told you a symptom proves witchcraft. Your response should produce wisdom, peace, and responsible action, not terror. The enemy of your peace does not need supernatural power if fear has already taken control of your thinking. So take your authority back, not by becoming obsessed, not by becoming suspicious, but by becoming grounded. Your body deserves care. Your mind deserves peace. Your faith deserves wisdom. And when those three come together, fear loses its grip. Now you understand something critical. If you experience physical pain, your first response should not be panic, it should be discernment. You do not fire back at pain by attacking another person. You do not retaliate against someone you suspect. You do not perform dangerous rituals. You do not seek revenge. You fight wisely. And sometimes the most powerful response is surprisingly practical. You rest, you hydrate, you eat properly, you address injuries, you seek medical evaluation when symptoms persist or become concerning, you deal honestly with stress, and you pray. That combination protects you from two dangerous extremes. ignoring genuine physical problems and becoming consumed by supernatural fear. Think about someone who has spent months living under pressure. They barely sleep, their thoughts never stop, their shoulders remain tense, their body constantly feels exhausted. Then they begin experiencing headaches and muscle pain. Instead of asking what their body needs, they become convinced that someone is spiritually attacking them. Now fear enters the picture. Every symptom becomes a threat. Every difficult day becomes evidence. Every person they distrust becomes a potential enemy. Their peace disappears. That is not the victory they were seeking. The stronger response is to step out of fear. Pray, ask God for wisdom, then take responsible action. If the pain needs medical attention, get it. If your lifestyle needs adjustment, make the adjustment. If stress is overwhelming you, seek appropriate support. If your spiritual life has become dominated by fear, return to the foundations of your faith. Prayer should not make you more terrified. It should help you become more grounded. Scripture should not turn every stranger into an enemy. It should strengthen your character, wisdom, and trust in God. And your faith should never require you to abandon common sense. This is where you truly fire back. You fire back against fear by refusing to surrender your mind. You fire back against hopelessness by continuing to seek help. You fire back against isolation by reaching out to trustworthy people. You fire back against confusion by pursuing truth. You fire back against despair by remembering that pain does not define your future. And if you believe spiritual warfare is part of your faith tradition, you can respond through prayer without making accusations against specific people. You can pray for protection. You can pray for wisdom. You can pray for peace. You can pray for strength. You can ask God to expose what is true and remove what is false, but leave vengeance to God. Do not allow spiritual language to become an excuse for harming yourself or someone else. Your authority is not proven by how aggressively you react. It is revealed by how firmly you remain grounded. There may be days when your body hurts. There may be nights when your mind feels exhausted. There may be moments when you cannot immediately explain what you are experiencing, but you do not have to collapse into fear. You can take the next wise step, then the next one, and the next. That is endurance, that is courage, that is faith operating with wisdom. So when pain comes, remember this. Do not automatically label it. Do not automatically fear it. Do not automatically blame someone. Investigate it. Pray through it. Care for your body. Protect your mind. Seek help when necessary. And refuse to let uncertainty control you. Because your victory is not found in discovering an enemy behind every sensation. Your victory is found in becoming so grounded in truth that fear cannot dictate your response. You are not powerless. You are not required to live in constant suspicion. You are allowed to seek answers. You are allowed to receive help. You are allowed to pray. And you are allowed to believe that God can sustain you through what you do not yet understand. That is how you fire back, not with fear, with wisdom, not with revenge, with faith, not with obsession, with peace. And when you walk that way, physical pain no longer has to become a doorway into spiritual terror. It becomes a moment where you choose discernment, responsibility, courage, and trust. You will not surrender your mind to fear, and you will not abandon wisdom when your body speaks. You will pray, you will discern, and you will take every necessary step with courage. No accusation, panic, or frightening interpretation will control your decisions. Stand firm in faith, walk in wisdom, and refuse to let fear become your master. Your response will be grounded, your spirit will remain steady, and your courage will not break. Walk forward with discernment and strength because fear does not get the final word.